What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Montyverse, and today we have a special treat. We're going to be reacting and breaking down the new She-Hulk featurette that Marvel released today. And I have joining with me Nicki, the lovely Egglord, attorney at law. What's up, Nicki?
Not too much. I wouldn't call myself an attorney at law. I look like one, which is a crime in itself, but we don't have to talk about that. But I'm really excited for this. I didn't know about this featurette until you told me, so I'm ready to get into it and watch it.
Yeah, we've never really talked about anything She-Hulk related, so I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are on this, especially after this particular featurette, because there's a lot of information, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about the character or the show beyond the trailers that have come out, so I'm very interested to see what we're getting with this.
All right, let's get right into it.
She-Hulk! 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 She-Hulk!
It's true. I am a Hulk.
That's so cash.
Jennifer Walters is an attorney who has accidentally taken in the Hulk's blood and has become...
like a chick Hulk.
A She-Hulk?
She-Hulk, attorney at law. That's got a nice ring to it.
That name better not stick.
There's something so surreal and so funny about a giant 6'7" Hulk in the courtroom.
It was about putting a real human being into these absurd situations.
It's just like as cool and edgy as we can get away with.
Girl, your ass looks crazy right now. It's something that you think you knew, which is law shows, and something that you think you know, which is Marvel shows, smashed together.
This show is so much fun.
It all has this tongue-in-cheek, self-referential thing going on.
In the comics, she broke the fourth wall and was super meta.
I just want to make sure that you don't think this is one of those cameo every week type of shows. Well, except Bruce. And Blonsky. And
She spent all this time becoming a lawyer, and this idea of being a superhero is not appealing to her.
Being a superhero is a trial by fire.
Oh, I'm not a superhero. I just want to be a normal, anonymous lawyer.
There is no going back to what you were before. Who's gonna protect the world if not people like you?
This is expanding the definition of what a Marvel Studios production can be.
This is a radical, revolutionary show.
Can we get some shots, please? It's an emergency.
Alright, that was pretty cool and super informative. It gave a lot of what this show is for people who aren't very familiar with the She-Hulk character. But me, I am very familiar, so I'll wait. I want to know what your thoughts are right away, because we haven't really talked about She-Hulk much.
That was a blast to watch. So I would say, starting with the first trailer, it was a little more vague in terms of what the tone and what the plot was going to be, other than kind of like the basics about Jennifer and her life. And like it was very clear early on, like it was going to have a jokey, jovial sitcom tone to it. But between the last trailer and this especially, it like really brought to life the literal breaking of the fourth wall, which that was a great panel in that comic. But kind of based on that and her just acknowledging the cameos, that to me is a lot of fun, and there's a corniness to it, but I'm on board for that kind of thing. And as I said, it's definitely deviating from what we've seen so far with these Disney Plus shows, so I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch back on like the humor and stuff later, but what the first thing that I really immediately want to address is we're kind of getting a updated version of Jen's origin. Jennifer Walters in the comics was given a blood transfusion by her cousin Bruce Banner, and that's how she gained her Hulk powers. And this, it looks like they're in a car accident. Possibly somehow Bruce is back in human form when he still has his damaged arm from Avengers Endgame, and she's probably helping him out. Maybe he can't drive with one arm or something like that. They get into a car accident, and it looks like blood from his head maybe mixes in with her blood from the open wounds on her arms, and that gives her Hulk-like abilities. And that's how she becomes the sensational She-Hulk in the MCU, if you will. So that's cool that they kind of gave us little snippets of that, because that's something I've been very curious about. Are they going to go through with, the transfusion issue, because she was shot during as part of her career in retaliation. So that's interesting that they're doing it that way. And She-Hulk as a character, I'm glad that you brought up, the fourth wall breaking and the humor, and because She-Hulk was essentially created as not really. She was created essentially to create a female Hulk, but she developed by writers like John Byrne and Dan Slott. She became a character who is very satirical. She's essentially a satire on how women were treated in comic books. And so, especially the John Byrne series really explores her character a lot, and it makes her funny, and it makes her very confident, and she constantly is breaking the fourth wall and talking to the readers and kind of narrating her day. And the series constantly tackles comic tropes and things that are comic related and breaks it down in a funny manner. So they're essentially telling us they're going to do the same thing, except they're going to do that with comic book movies and legal dramas. And they're going to take those things and they're going to break those down, and this is going to be a satire on that. And I really like that. It's very true to the character. So I was very, very impressed and excited when I saw all of that.
Right. And I mean, you just touched on the satirical elements with treating her as kind of the literal female equivalent of an existing character. It's literally right in her name in the regards to how she's, like, I don't know how she's depicted in the comics, but that comes through very clearly, especially in this trailer. Like, just the fact that She-Hulk as a name took off, which that's 100%.
Chick-Hulk.
That's exactly what would happen in the real world if something like that happened.
And again, that's making fun of all of the kickback Phase 4 has been getting, because you have, as this is not my, don't quote me, but this is what people have been saying. You have Lady Thor, Lady Hawkeye, Marvel is turning everyone into women. So I expect them to have a little fun with that and to play on that. And the fact that she's using the name She-Hulk and embracing it is kind of her way of making fun of that. And what's really interesting is, unlike those other equivalents, because you have Mighty Thor and you have Kate Bishop Hawkeye, and their stories kind of are very similar to their, for lack of a better term, their male counterparts.
Lady Loki.
Lady Loki, Sylvie. But She-Hulk has always been, her stories have always been completely different tonally from Bruce Banner's, from the regular Hulk. So it's really exciting to me, because even in the Hawkeye series, it had the same tone all the way through. Both Hawkeyes played off of each other, and it was kind of the same adventure. But this feels so much different to everything we've seen the Hulk do before. Like, we've in another trailer, we've seen her master all of these things that it took Bruce years to do, like meditation and concentration and being able to finesse your powers in a way that you're controlling them to a minute percentage. And Jen's nailing all of these things. So I like that we're going to get essentially a different Hulk in She-Hulk.
Very different. And again, one that I think, like you said, it goes beyond just her being the female equivalent. Because I know, especially in one of your earlier reactions, you had touched upon how she embraces the form a lot more readily than I think it took Bruce to. Where I don't know like exactly how much, if obviously we have Emil Blonsky, so there's most likely references to the Incredible Hulk, but he started out not embracing it. He fought against it. And like you said, he struggled with it a lot more, where she, at least from what we've seen, is clearly kind of embracing it, and she's in the form considerably more and looks comfortable doing so. So that in itself is a contrast, and it'll just be interesting to see. And like they even said in this, how she kind of navigates these real world situations in that form.
Well, there's a reason why she stays in the form, because in the comics, Jen had the ability, unlike, Bruce had the ability at the time. She was able to change in and out of the form. But she ended up staying in the form longer and longer, because she went from this very unconfident, dorky, someone with very low self-esteem and no self-confidence, to this beautiful, strong, powerful, confident She-Hulk. And she loved the way she felt in that form, unlike Bruce, who was the exact opposite. He felt like a monster. He felt like less of himself. She felt like that was her fully, like, reaching her full potential. She just loved the way she looked, and it was the preferred form of hers. That's why she stayed in it longer and longer and longer, until eventually she was in the form 24/7 all the time. So I really wonder if we're going to get that same arc with Jen here that we did in the comics, if she's going to have those self-esteem or confidence issues, or if it's just something she's going to have to juggle with her work.
No, I'm honestly just super pumped for this series. I mean, even going beyond just Jennifer as a character in her arc, and even beyond just all of the returning cameos that she very clearly outlined for us, which I am excited for them, but this is also such a stacked cast that they displayed in this, with Jameela Jamil, Broadway star Renée Elise Goldsberry. I'm very excited to see like just everyone in the show and what they all bring to it.
Yeah, and then you have things like another thing that they're doing that's a satire on comic books is they're having these silly villains or even villains that are B-list or considered bigger in the comics, like the Wrecking Crew, which essentially are villains who are dressed like construction workers and use like crowbars and hammers and chains and wrecking balls as weapons. You see them in the trailer. You see them a little bit more in the trailer, and they look very goofy. And when they pose and use their weapons, they look goofy. Mm-hmm. Then you have villains like Leapfrog, aka Frogman, who is essentially another goofy villain from the comics who they're bringing in, and they're trying to make a play on like these villains who in any other superhero property would have been treated very seriously. Mm-hmm. Here are just like it's just Jen's perspective is our perspective. She's looking at this as if someone in our world would look at this like, is that a guy dressed like a frog, or are these like four construction workers looking to attack me right now?
So we're basically getting another tracksuit mafia, but even crazier.
In a way, they're very different than the tracksuit mafia. They're more like bruisers. They're more like lugheads, like kind of like airheads. The tracksuit mafia is very much almost like a hive mind. But yeah, the Wrecking Crew is a fun, and they're an Avenger levels villain, so maybe Jen will get to show off her strength. But I really like the tone of the show. Looks like it's mixing the John Byrne comic run with the Dan Slott comic run. The Dan Slott run being something that's a lot more recent than the Byrne run from the 80s, and it deals a lot with superhuman law. Mm-hmm. And she defends a lot of villains and heroes, and you have to navigate Jen's superhero adventures with her legal adventures as well. So I like that the show is doing that. I also like that she's reluctant to be a hero. She doesn't really want to be a hero at all. This show essentially is going to be her journey from just fighting for normalcy. Like her just trying to hold on to any piece of her old life that she can while embracing this new Hulk side, which I think is a really cool concept. This featurette, more than any of the trailers, has me super excited for the show, because I think once you peel back the CGI, the issues with the CGI that people have, the characters excite me so much, and the tone and the writing, and everyone seems to know exactly what they want to do and exactly the story they're going to tell, and they seem like they're being true to the characters. So sign me up. I'm on board.
I am too, and I've heard people's comments about the CGI as well, and I completely understand, but I want to reserve judgment a little bit until we see the final product, and damn well I'm going to watch this when it comes out.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be it for us, guys. Comment down below your thoughts on the featurette. Are you excited for She-Hulk? I know I am. And Nicki, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Twitter and other social media at Egglord Nicki, Nicki.
And make sure to like the video, give it a huge thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we have tons of content coming out. We've got tons of special guests coming in and out of the Montyverse. So until next time, guys, stay versed.